Hey guys, welcome back to Feather's Charm. I'm Feather and welcome to this episode of my Behind the Stitch series. Today I'm going to show you how to create a single crochet. Now before we get started, I suggest you watch my first Behind the Stitch video so you know how to create a foundation chain to get started. Also, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share and follow me here on YouTube, on my social media channels, on my website and on Patreon. Your donations help me make content like this for you guys. Okay, so back to the episode. What are we going to learn today? So we'll be looking at what the abbreviation for a single crochet is, how to create a single crochet, and what exactly gauge means. So let's get started. Okay, so the abbreviation for a single crochet is SC. It's literally the initials for the stitch itself, so it's pretty self-explanatory. So when a pattern tells you to SC4, this just means you need to create 4 single crochets. So if you have a space in your pattern, if the pattern requires, you'll need to create 4 single crochets in that space. Alternatively, they might ask you to SC in the next ST. This just means you need to create a single crochet in the next stitch, like so. The next abbreviation that I want to show you is this, YO. Now this just means yarn over. It's essentially the motion you make when you wrap the yarn around your hook, like this. So when a pattern has the YO abbreviation, all you need to do is wrap your yarn around the hook and prepare for the next step. It's not the pattern designer saying yo to you. Now let's take a look at how to create a single crochet. I'm going to start off with a foundation chain of 20 so you guys know how to start it off. Also, be aware that this will only make 19 single crochets rather than 20, as crochet patterns usually skip the chain that you've just worked, like this. Don't worry, we'll get into why we need to do these skips later on. So you see the join where the V of the chain is? That's where you insert your hook. Now before I continue, do you see the line of yarn at the back of the foundation chain? It doesn't really matter where you insert your hook here. The difference it makes is the finishing at the end of your pattern. So if you want to mimic the end of your pattern, as in the very end of the pattern when you're all done, so you know where to sew if you need to, then you'll want to insert your hook above the line to create that V shape that mimics that top V shape. So essentially, if you're sewing something to the pattern, or if you're creating finishings and edges that require you to insert your hook into the quote-unquote stitch, then that V shape will help you because you'll be able to see what the next chain or stitch is. If, however, you want to have a more secure hold of the next row, then you'll want to insert your hook below the line. I'm not looking to secure my rows, so I'll just insert my hook above the line. Okay, so now that we've inserted our hook, we need to yarn over. See what I did there? It's easier for me to say yarn over than wrap your yarn around the hook, and that's what I'll be doing from now on. And like I said in the first episode of this series, you want your hook to catch the yarn and not let it fall off. So make sure you wrap your yarn around the hook like this. Next, you're going to want to bring the yarn through the chain that you've inserted your hook through, like this. Now you'll have 2 loops on your hook, like this. The next thing you're going to do is yarn over again. And this time you're going to bring your yarn through both loops that are on your hook, and eventually you'll only have 1 loop left. And that's it. That's your single crochet. So let's do it again just so you guys get the hang of it. So first, insert your hook into the next chain, yarn over, bring the yarn back through the chain, yarn over again, and bring the yarn through both loops that are on your hook. Et voila! Your second single crochet. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is how to create a single crochet in pattern. So say for example, you're creating a coaster. You're going to need to know where to insert your hook in a stitch that's already been made. So here I've made a row of single crochets. Here you'll be working behind these stitches. So let me show you. When you've made your row of single crochets, you're going to want to flip your project so it's back to front. Do you see the little gaps at the top there? That's where you're going to insert your hook. Now pay attention, you don't want to go through the V shape at the back. That stays on top. So what you're going to do instead is insert your hook where the gap is and push it through under the V shape at the back. Then you're going to create your single crochet like before. So yarn over, bring it through the stitch you've inserted your hook into, yarn over again, and bring that yarn through both loops on your hook. And there you have it, your single crochet in pattern. Before we move on to the last part of this tutorial, let me show you how the single crochet should look in other parts of your pattern. So here we have a row of double crochets. It's literally the same thing. So you flip it over, and in the gaps at the top of the stitch where I'm pointing to, you're going to insert your hook into these gaps and single crochet here. Again, leave the V shape on top. You don't want to go through this. It's a similar deal with half double and treble crochets, which we'll get into later. Now other patterns might make you single crochet into chain spaces like this. Here you need to read your pattern. If they tell you to single crochet into the chain, you need to single crochet into the chain like you would for a foundation chain. However, most of the time they'll ask you to SC into the CH space, which means the chain space. That means you don't need to specifically insert your hook into the chain, you just single crochet over it like this. Now let's look at what gauge means. So in the first episode of this series, I showed you how yarn size, hook size, and yarn tension dictate how big or small your chains are. It's a similar deal with single crochets. However, now that we're starting to create things that aren't straight lines, we need to know the width and length of the pattern to make sure we're making the right size. And this is especially true for clothing, since the pattern needs to be the perfect size for the body you're making it for. This is where the gauge comes in. Usually you'll find it at the start of a pattern, and they'll have specific measurements for the pattern you're making. So say for example you want to make a simple sweater and the pattern you're using shows you that the gauge is 10 centimeters or 4 inches square for 12 stitches and 10 rows. Quick side note, it will usually be a square of 10 centimeters or 4 inches. That just means that a patch of pattern needs to be 12 stitches wide and 10 rows high. So you'll need to make a patch of 13 chains so you can single crochet into the first 12 and then make 10 rows of your single crochets. Once that's done, then you'll need to measure it. You can use a standard ruler, or if you want, you can get a knitter's ruler or a crocheter's ruler. It's essentially a square plastic or wooden ruler that you can place on top of your pattern to count the stitches through. Essentially, if your patch of stitches measures exactly the same as the gauge with 12 stitches across and 10 rows up, you're good to go. If, however, your patch has too many stitches or too little stitches, you'll need to adjust the material you're using. So if the yarn you're using isn't the same as what the pattern recommends, then change the yarn. If you are using the same yarn, but the stitches don't follow the gauge, then you might need to change a few things. You might need to change your hook size to make bigger stitches or smaller ones, or you need to be aware of how loosely or tightly you're holding your yarn. It's all about trial and error, and you might go through a few trials to get the right fit, but for the perfect gauge for your pattern, then it's a process you're going to have to go through. Well, there you have it, you guys. Let's take a look at what we've learned today. We've learned what the abbreviation for a single crochet is and what the abbreviation for the actual technique of wrapping your yarn around your hook is. We've learned how to create a single crochet both at the beginning of a pattern and in the middle of a pattern. And we've learned what a gauge is and how important they are for some patterns. Well, I hope you guys have found this useful, and I'll see you next time when we look at the half double crochet. In the meantime, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and follow me here on YouTube, on my social media channels, on my website, and on Patreon. Your donations really help me make more content like this for you guys. And if you want to be a part of the creation process, please leave your feedback and comments below, and I'll do what I can to make the content you guys like to see. And as always, be kind, be creative, and be unique. I'll see you later. Feather out.